Hey y'all, welcome back to Modified. I got the 4L60 put back together with the SONNAX 6-pinion close ratio front planetary. I went through the whole thing, didn't find one metal shaving besides what was in the pan, and this is how I finished putting it back together. If you're new to the channel, like and subscribe, of course. Go to my channel, check out my playlist, and get caught up. But here is the RCSB project and the modified, finally, 4L60E that's going into the RCSB. This week, we're gonna check the pump out. We're gonna inspect the pump for any kind of shavings that may have got up in it that the filter didn't catch. If it's good, we're gonna go ahead and slap it in, install it, and put the valve body on. All right, so the pump comes apart with these 5 screws back here. 13. I believe all the bolts are the same length, so it doesn't really matter. Also, if you get a replacement pump from a transmission shop, hold on to these because they'll usually give them to you with 1 or 2 bolts in them. Ask me how I know. So in the pump, we have nothing. There's nothing grabbing on my fingernail. There's a little bit on the outside right here that I can see. Something went around it and got caught up in the filter. That looks good. Let's take these vanes out. It's a 13 vane pump. Nothing's broken or cracked. Yeah, that wear pattern is right. I mean, it's right there. It's perfect. And as far as the vanes go, I make magnets for that shop. They're nice and smooth. Yeah, I mean, I got some circular scoring, but nothing deep. I think I could put it back together and send it. Cool. Well, I'll just put this back together how I found it. That works for me. Bushing looks good. I think this is one of those that we can just send it. I'm not going to say this pump is rebuilt, but it's definitely been inspected and good to go. So, rotates freely. You can see where it picks up the fluid and squirts it out as it gets tight. Everything moves nice and easy. I can see some lines, but I can't even feel them with my fingernail. So I want to say the pump's good. We're good.
We're good?
We're good. All I do know is I went and checked all these valves. They're all clean. This is where the filter picks up into the pump. I forgot what the valve does. This is the one that builds your pressure. Yeah, this is your lockup valve. So they're all clean, clean of debris. One last thing to check is this filter here. And I got like a dot of whatever that could possibly be. So let me get a new one out of my extra. I got some extras out of my filter box. So I always keep extra parts pieces because you never know. This just slides in and clicks in place. That's it. Done. So now the vanes have been looked at, the pump's been looked at. There's no cracks. There's no anything. I'm going to grab some Dex Merc and lubricate this pretty good. Give it a little spin. Want it to be all in there. It's kind of like priming it. Anytime you see a dry vane, go ahead and fill it in. There's enough waste in my fluid. And then something that's going to let the top pump fall into the bottom pump. So on this pump, there's the square. And you can see that there's the square. So we're going to match up the square with the square. Drop it down. And what's really going to line you up is the bolt holes. So once your squares have been matched up, go ahead and drop your bolts back in. Give them a wiggle and they'll find their home. It's back together and cross my fingers, but I feel pretty good about this. You know, all my Teflons look good. And I'm not sure if this is necessary, but I have it. So I might as well use it. Try to keep it clean in this plastic bag. It's a pump alignment tool, and it's pretty much just a wing nut and band clamp. So before I go cinching this thing together, I gotta tighten this up, make sure it's round and square, or square to its round. Just make sure it's halfway in between. 18 foot-pounds. Torque the 5 pump to cover to pump body bolts to 18 foot-pounds while the alignment strap is tight. Boom. Let me grab that torque wrench I got there. I knew the answer was in there somewhere. Actually, see, Balla dropped off this digital. 14. Too far. 18. Make sure it's on foot-pounds, not inch-pounds, newton meters. Kind of in a star pattern like you do your wheel on your 5-spokes. If you got a 5-lug wheel. Do the crisscross, make the star, you know? Alright, we're good. So before I go drop this in the transmission, it's been disassembled, so I might as well put some reassembly goo on it. Stuff don't hurt nothing. Wrap it around these Teflons and grab these inside bushings. Just so it's not a dry start. And this stuff will melt right off and turn into trans fluid. Before you go dropping this pump in, there's this little plastic spacer that lines up right there. Right there. And I just want to be sure it stays when I go drop this thing in upside down, that it doesn't fall off on me. Mess up any type of clearance, tolerance, or whatever. So, put some of this on the flat spots. And this waxy stuff, smear it around like it's holding it on, because it does. Go ahead and take off this alignment tool. Like I said, this ain't how-to, this is figuring it out. So I got this copper and rubber gasket. It's not tore up. This was what came off of it. It was sealed very well. I already put the paper gasket down at the bottom of the pump, housing, transmission, whatever. If you just keep everything straight as it goes in. One bolt, make sure the O-ring's on it. I like to put some of that assembly lube on this too, so it'll slip when it goes to turn. I saw it line up when I dropped it in. And that just caught the thread. Yep, good to go. Show you what I'm talking about. This valve needs to be straight down. That's where your filter goes to pick up everything, and there's your lockup valve. Band's in, everything is in. Now we just need to set this gasket down flat and then torque the pump down. It'll pull everything with it. Sorry I ran them down, sorry. Don't know why, but sometimes the GoPro does not record when you press record. So it's 18 foot-pounds on these also. I'm good. And this little copper alignment deal that they came worked real also. So next we're going to jump on the valve body part. Give it a little flip. Already went and put the tail shaft back on. That's not that big a deal. All right, a few days have gone by, weekends passed, bad weather, got more coming, so I'm trying to rush this. I hate rushing stuff. This transmission was built by a very reputable builder that doesn't build them anymore, which is why I decided I'm going to learn how to do this because I just don't have a grand to throw to somebody every time I need a transmission built. It's been more often than not lately. So I'm just kind of following in this guy's footsteps as far as what was there and how it was and how it's going to go back together is exactly how I'm taking it apart so I don't miss anything. But right now, I have taken off the 1-2 accumulator and 3-4 accumulator and the separator plate. And I've cleaned all that up. This is the spring that was in it. This pin, you should be able to take up. It's like vacuum sealed in there. I can't spin this. It's like it's locked in. So I'm going to leave it locked in. And I cleaned up any little bit of aluminum or schmutz that was in this gasket. This gasket is labeled CV or CA, can't tell, but I have one. So the CA gasket, you can see right there, was on this side. My screens are clean and everything's been wiped down. So I can put this back on how it was. I didn't even remove my check ball, so should be good to go just to slap it back together. The valve body's clean. I haven't found any more aluminum anywhere else besides what was right there in that little gasket. I've done taken the whole transmission down and put it back together. No aluminum. So with the new forward clutches and the gear reduction planetary, I think we're good to go. So let's get this valve body put back on. So I've got my new gasket here. It goes like this. And this side, I tore it, and it's got a VB valve body. And in my collection of leftovers, I have another VB valve body. So put my new gasket on the top side. That's the only difference in the gaskets that I know of is the literature on the sides. And how to make them straight and flat and perfect. The bolts line them up when you drop the valve body on. Let me grab that. So here's my 1-2 accumulator. It moves nice and free. Look at that. Got the jism everywhere. So this isn't stuck. I'm taking it apart. The seal innets are good. It moves very free. And I'm going to use this to keep this plate down. It's got 3 bolts. They're kind of obvious. 2 shorts and a long. The long goes on the long side, the short's on the short side. I'm going to use this to kind of keep the plate and the gasket straight, along with this plate that goes on the back here. I got my blue tarp just in case the rain sneaks up on me. It's using these 3 little short 8mm head bolts. I'm going to go ahead and try to line up this gasket and the separator plate. And it's cut weird on purpose, so it only goes on one way. I got to loosely get this started. And it went in pretty easy. If you're forcing it, something's wrong. To me, this is the scary part. All right, nothing's on it. Everything's clean. Make sure nothing's covered up or half crossed. I'm going to go ahead and throw this on the correct orientation. Like I said, I'm new. I'm nervous. I'm not one of these guys who's going to go slam it back together because I don't know what I'm doing yet. And I don't know how important it is to get this perfect or not. But I want to make sure it's perfect. Alright, so we are finger snug. Reviewing my destructions, it tells you where all the balls go. And you can kind of look at the separator plate if you look at them long enough and see that they go everywhere that there's a weep hole to allow the fluid to uncheck the ball. Here's your reverse. It will slide to either hole. There's a check ball under the accumulator, but it goes under the separator plate. I never removed it. It's already in there. Now I can just take and transfer the valve body with all the bolts in. So you start in the center and you just kind of work your way out in a circle. I like to make sure they all at least start before you start hammering on them. This little gun I got, the first little, as long as you don't stay on it, it doesn't really torque it to about 5 foot-pounds. So and the pressure switch. Before I go putting this on, I'm gonna check and just make sure the pressure buttons don't have any gook in them. I believe I cleaned them, but yeah, no, they're all clean. This one's got, see that gasket right there? I got new O-rings for this. All right, so the rain is cut off with me, but this is what I found going to put the pressure switch back in. I don't know if you could see. There is a torn cover and there's fluid behind this. And I also found these O-rings like this. The O-ring isn't an O anymore. It's you can see it. It's flat. See, it's got a flat spot. So when the pressure would go in, it wouldn't stay. It would squirt out the flat spot. And that probably is what led my transmission to find 2 years at the same time. I'm just guessing. I'm not sure. If any of y'all know, leave a comment. So this was on D2 and D4. My pressure switch happens to be labeled. So it tells you, here's D4, the O-ring's perfect. It was D2 and D3 that were squared off. Here's R for reverse. So it sends pressure to different ones, sending out to the computer. There's your temperature. So the computer knows what gear your truck's gonna be in. So I'm just wondering if it went to shift in a second, didn't have a second gear reading because the O-ring was squared out, and it tried to shift in a second, third at the same time and ended up frying the forward clutches. So that's the only thing I found besides the smooth forward clutches and the bad O-ring on this whole assembly or disassembly, reassembly of this 4L60. So here we are. I have a replacement pressure switch. Everything has just been kind of hand tight. We're gonna go ahead and retorque the manifold to 8 foot-pounds. I have a new filter, and we're gonna reinstall the lockup, hook all the harness back up, and put the pan on it and get it ready to put in the RCSB. We went and pushed it in here before it started raining. Got it on the lift. And I believe in the next video, we'll actually put the transmission in. And tighten up this valve body, finish assembling the bottom end upside down, and put the pan, we'll put the filter and pan on it. Make sure you get the correct filter for your application. There's the rubber seal. I like the cork ones. I'll save that for another time. I got a cork seal in that box over there. Yeah, that's a good seal. There it goes. Nice and clipped. Also, you want to be sure that you got the correct filter for your pan. So they make a deep filter and a shallow filter. The shallow filters are going to be usually your metal ones. You can see if I sit this here, that's going to be right at the bottom of the pan. It's the same depth. So I'm going to have maximum fluid penetration. Let's go clean this out while I take that phone call. Man, that's so clean you can eat off of it. You can wipe down the outside. So they got a square punched into the bottom of the pan. That's where your magnet goes. It kind of sits over here in this area. Pressure switch. And we're gonna go ahead and throw a gasket on it. It's raining pretty good now. You can hear the frogs. You call me old school, but I like my cork gaskets. If you torque them correctly, they never leak. But that cork, man, just lays out right where it's supposed to go. And I'm confident. I'm ready to go. Hands clean. It's raining. Typical Louisiana. Let's put some bolts in it, no? So when I wipe the pan down, I always punch the bolt holes backwards with a ball peen hammer. Not much, but just enough so if it's cupped down, it doesn't push on the gasket in one point and make a, I just use the back of this ball peen here. That way it pushes on the gasket evenly. And you can overcrush cork. That's why people usually have problems with it. It's not supposed to be tight. The torque spec on this is 9 foot-pounds. I like to start everything by finger to make sure I don't cross thread anything first. I hope that little O-ring I caught on that pressure switch was my 100% problem of frying my forward clutches. For me, the only way to know and find out is to put it together and see what happens. 13 millimeter. I'm gonna zip them down. I'm exclusively a Freight Harbor shopper because I can't afford nothing else. Foot-pounds. 9 foot-pounds. Watch this. And it's not gonna leak a drop. And I'm gonna go around every one twice just to make sure they're evenly at 9 foot-pounds. But 9 foot-pounds, even after hitting it with the impact, is a lot more than you think it would be. Instead of standing it straight up, I'm gonna kind of leave it on an angle because I don't want all the fluid I just put in it running out the tail shaft. I had drizzled transmission fluid on the planetary and a bunch of parts on the inside before I buttoned it all back together, just to be sure it had some kind of coating on it besides that assembly goo. And now we're gonna go ahead and slide the bell housing on the front. That's it. That's what I've been looking for since I started. The last pile of bolts. Seals in and good. Bracket to hold it in to be sure is good. We're all good. Everything's in, O-ring, everything's lubricated for the torque converter. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this bell housing on it. I am not using any kind of Loctite on this. They do not come loose. I start every one of them with my fingers just to be sure the threads are lined up. Then I'm gonna run them in with my little light green impact. Oh, look at that little gun. It's quick and it's not strong necessarily. It'll drive screws all day. As far as like torquing things, you don't want to torque with an impact anyway. Got a 1/2 inch adapter on this little screw gun. It's kind of funny looking, but it'll put them in. I'm just going to crisscross them in. Turn on the dude here. It's on foot-pounds. Oh, 15's not bad. I'm going to skip one as I go around. All right, now I'm gonna jump up to 30. I'm scared of these things, man. 30 foot-pounds. When I see that red light, I'm good. Always be straight on it and hold your extension as flat as you can. So tighten all these to 30 the first time. And these are like self-tightening bolts because I'm seeing 32 and 33 and they're still not budging. That's in there, bro. So I got my goo. You go ahead and give a wipe on this stator shaft or whatever the hell this is, the pump shaft thing here. Double check that my O-ring's got a lot on it. Don't want that to rip. Put a bunch on my seal. I'm gonna put a little bit on the converter too. It's just a good little wipe. Put some on the inside, why not? I passed a magnet all around the inside of this converter as fast as I could. I didn't come up with a piece of metal at all. I ran it around the bottom and kind of did a centrifugal to the center to see if I could get anything to move to the middle. Stuck it in the hole. Couldn't find any metal at all in the converter, so I guess This is a guess. It's a huge no-no. But I guess no metal got in this converter, and it all got sucked up into the filter. And we're gonna be good. So let's stab the converter in, and then spin it until it locks into the pump gear. It's pre-filled because of the previous engagement. All the fluid's nice and red. There it is. Slid in for me right there. I'm in the pump. And I'm bottomed out. So I did notice on that pump gear, I need to put about an 1/8 inch shim, so when it pulls out, I got 100% contact for the drive pump. And on those two little notches, they were about 3/4 of the way touching, which is good contact, but I want 100. So it's about 1/8 of an inch. I'm gonna go get some machine bushings to put behind these bolts. So when I tighten them up and it pulls it to the flex plate, it doesn't pull it out too far. But we're ready to put it in the truck. All right, y'all. Luckily the wind held out and it's just rained. I'm under my cover here. Got the RCSB up on the lift so we can put the transmission in. The transmission is together and ready to go back in. Torque converter's in it, pans on it, everything, all the guts are on the inside. And that SONNAX 6-pinion gear reduction front planetary unit. That's just gonna make the shifts stay so close together and keep this engine in the optimal power band. We didn't put the cam in the engine, didn't want to crack it open. I just changed the O-ring gasket. It had great oil pressure. I'm just not gonna play with it. But we have 2 4.8s over here and a 5.3 back in the corner from my buddy's truck, and got another 4.8 to take out of it. So I'm gonna build something awesome, maybe to put in the RCSB later, or who knows, Camaro, Corvette. But I'm going to build something awesome out of one or all of these 4.8s. It's in the plans, it's gonna happen. Thanks for watching the 4L60E, What the Hell Did I Do to This Transmission series. This is part 3. It's together, and it's ready to go back in the truck. If you're new to my channel, check out my playlists, get caught up. Thanks, y'all. Catch you next time. Later.